Girls, sorry I'm not there today. Hopefully you've already done some work on the algebraic proof. But in that composite and inverse functions booklet I gave you yesterday, I'd just like you to spend a bit of time doing some inverse functions now. Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple of examples with you, and then I'll just point out some of the ones you can have a go at. All right. So remember, if you've got x, okay, and you apply a function to it, it takes you y. The inverse function, which we call f minus 1 of x, is what takes you back from y back to where you started, x, okay? So if we write a normal function that takes you from x to y as f of x, the one that takes you back is known as the inverse function f minus 1 of x. Now, every time you want to find an inverse function, it's exactly the same method, okay? So what you do is you let y be equal to f of x. You rearrange the equation to make x the subject, and then you replace any y's with an x and any x's with the inverse function of x. Okay, so hopefully after a couple of examples this will make sense. Okay, so for the first one here, we've got f of x equals 3 over x minus 1. So we start by letting y be f of x, so we've got 3 over x minus 1. We rearrange that, okay, to make x the subject. So the first thing we'd have to do is multiply by x minus 1. All right, so if we do that, we'll get that, okay? There's two ways you can go from here now. You can either straight away divide by y, so you get x minus 1 is 3 over y, okay? Or you can expand the brackets, yx minus y equals 3, all right? And if you do that and you get yx on its own, you get yx equals 3 plus y, and you get x equals 3 plus y over y. Okay, if you go the other way where you've divided, you get x on its own by just adding the 1, so you get 3 over y plus 1. Now both of these are equivalent, alright, they mean exactly the same thing. If you change that 1 to y over y, you get 3 over y plus y over y, which is the same as 3 plus y over y. So any of these are the right answer. So all we do now to write our inverse function is we change the x to inverse function of x and any y's to x's. So we've got either 3 over x plus 1 or 3 plus x over x. Okay, so that's for the example on page 15. All right, I'm going to look at a couple more with you. Okay, so if you turn to page 16 this time, you've got this example here. So f of x is x plus 1 over x. Okay, so we start again, we're finding the inverse function, so we start again by letting y equal f of x. So you've got y equals x plus 1 over x. You now want to rearrange to get x as subject. It's a little bit more complicated because you've got the two x's. So the first thing you do, get rid of the fraction, is multiply by x. So you've got xy equals x plus 1. Okay, and then you want to get all your x's on one side, so you've got xy minus x equals 1, and at this stage now we want to make x the subject, so we take x out as a factor. Okay, so what do I times x by to get xy? Y. What do I times x by to get minus x? Minus 1. So I end up with this equation here, and then now if I want x as the subject, I simply divide by 1 over minus 1. I divide by y minus 1, okay? So here, this is my rearranged version now, and I just need to put it back into the correct notation. So you've got that the inverse function of x instead of x is equal to 1 over x minus 1. Okay, so that would be your final answer for this one. Okay. One more question that I'm just going to go through with you then now, okay, is just this one on the next page. Okay, so a couple of bits of this, you can probably do most of it on your own, all right? I just want to point something out about the inverse function. So if we look at this one, we've got f of x is equal to 5x plus 3. First thing, dead easy, it says, what's f of 2? So we replace x with 2. So we've got 5 times 2 plus 3. So f of 2 is 13. Okay, B now asks us to find what the inverse function of x is. So we start y equals 5x plus 3. We want to rearrange that. So we take away 3. Y take 3 is 5x. divide by 5, so we get x equals y take 3 over 5. Okay, so now we can write our inverse function as inverse function of x is equal to x take 3 over 5. Now part C of this question now says find this, which means the inverse function of 13. So put 13 into your inverse function here. Okay, so if we put 13 into that, we get 13 take 3 over 5, which is 10 over 5, which is 2. Okay, so if you look, f of 2 takes you to 13, and then inverse function of 13 takes you back to 2. Okay, so what do you notice about your answers to D? What do you notice about your answers to A and C? Okay, is that the inverse function of 13 takes you back to 2, and f of 2 takes you to 13. So you end up where you started, okay? Okay, going from one to the other, and then the other takes you back, all right? Right, what I'd like you to try now is try some of the questions now on the inverse functions in the rest of that booklet that I gave you yesterday, or in the original booklet if you had that yesterday, okay? I'll fill it in and I'll upload some answers for you. Thanks a lot, girls. Bye.